Hey everybody, so here we go, continuing along with our season previews, and we're up to the Detroit Red Wings. So, Detroit, really not looking good for Detroit going into this season. Had a really bad year last year. They're a rebuilding team who, in some ways, doesn't seem to want to admit that they're a rebuilding team, but they are. And I expect Detroit to be pretty bad this season. They just got news that Henrik Zetterberg his career is over, so they lose him out of an already lousy lineup, and he's one of their better players. So yeah, it's not looking great for the Red Wings this year. And if you're a Red Wings fan, I think you can't go into this year expecting much for wins. I think the thing to do if you're a Wings fan is to look towards the future and keep an eye on some of the younger players in the lineup. And there's going to be a good number of them in the lineup, I would think, this season, getting NHL experience. But anyway, let's look at the lineup and see what they got here. This is according to Roster Resource. Listen, I changed a couple things around. I didn't want to have to redo the entire lineup. Detroit has all left-handed shots, so I don't know who's going to play left wing, who's going to play right wing. They're all left-handed shots. I also have no idea if these will be the actual line combinations. I just went off where I would probably put guys, at least to start the year. But this may not even end up being the roster or what the lineup looks like. We could have some surprises and some young players get in. But anyway, take it for what it's worth. This is just some semblance of a lineup for this team. It's pretty much needless to say, but there are jobs to be won in Detroit. If you have a good preseason, you can take a roster spot on this team because there are some holes in the lineup, to say the least. But anyway, top line, Mantha, Larkin, and Nyquist. Actually, not a bad top line there. That's pretty good. Second line, Vanek, Nielsen, and I have Svechnikov there, assuming maybe he makes the team. Hopefully, at this point, he makes the team. First-round pick from a couple years back. He's got to be ready at this point. Third line, Abdelkader, Athanasiou, and Darren Helm. How the hell is Darren Helm still on this team? And fourth line, Rasmussen, Glendening, and Bertuzzi. On defense, this is rough. DeKaiser and Daly, Cronwall and Green, and then Eriksson and Jensen is your third pair. Howard in goal with Bernier backing him up. Extra players. Roster Resource didn't have Filip Zadina in the lineup. Filip Zadina could very well make this team and probably should make this team. Taken 6th overall in this year's draft. He should have been taken higher. He really was worth a top 4 pick in my opinion. With this lineup, I think should make this team. Maybe they won't want him to play on such a lousy team, though, and they'll send him back to junior for another year, although I don't think that really does much for him. I want to see Zadina in a Red Wings uniform this year. Then you have Martin Frk and Luke Witkowski as extra forwards. Well, Witkowski can play forward or defense. He's probably not going to play much this year, I wouldn't think. He was mainly there last year as a fighter, and as more and more young guys get into this lineup, I think guys like Witkowski are just going to be passed over and probably waived. And then their 7th defenseman right now is some guy named Joe Hicketts. I've never even heard of him, so I know nothing about him or how NHL ready he is. I didn't even know that there was an NHLer named Joe Hicketts before looking this lineup up. So, yeah, overall, not great for Detroit right now, to say the least. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the East, in my opinion. Howard is an okay goaltender. He never really... he shined his first few years in the league, and then it's been all downhill from there. He certainly never became the goaltender that many of us thought he would when he was so successful, when he first came into the league. Bernier is a fine backup, but certainly not starter worthy. So, okay goaltending in Detroit, nothing spectacular. Their defense is an absolute shit show. Danny DeKeyser and Trevor Daley as your top pair is not going to win you many games. DeKeyser, when he came into the league, he was thought of as a pretty good, up-and-coming offensive defenseman, but injuries have derailed that, and he just never... That put the brakes on his development greatly. Trevor Daley, old and, a solid defenseman, but not a top-pair guy at this point. Cronwall, another guy who probably should be retiring soon and probably will be retiring soon. Mike Green, they just signed him again to stay in Detroit, and he's at 33 now. He's not really giving you what he used to. Jonathan Ericsson has been garbage for the last 3 or 4 years. Nick Jensen is a bottom pair guy at best. Defensively, Detroit is not good at all. Up front is where you have some hope here. You have some good young players. Anthony Mantha I like a lot. He's a really solid power forward. Dylan Larkin is probably the best player on the team at this point. Nyquist I've really gotten down on over the last couple of years, but that might just be because he's playing worse because the team's gotten worse. He had a really good start to his career, but that has not continued. Maybe if the team can start getting better and start going the other way, then maybe he'll pick back up again. Thomas Vanek, I really don't know why they even bothered signing this guy. He's older at this point. He's still a solid goal scorer, but not a game changer like he used to be. And on a team full, why... You're not going to win now, so why bring in a guy like Vanek? I guess the best thing with Vanek, would be to trade him at the trade deadline to a contender or a team looking for goal scoring at the deadline and get some draft picks for him. That's probably your best bet with Vanek. I really don't see what he adds to a lineup that... sure, he's still a decent enough goal scorer, but this team's not going to win any more with him than they would without him. So, Franz Nielsen at the second-line center, and then maybe Svechnikov on the right wing. Maybe. We'll see. Abdelkader, his contract's awful. Athanasiou, I like Athanasiou. He's a good young player. Darren Helm, I have no idea how he's on this still on the Red Wings. Talk about overpaid and doesn't really do much. Michael Rasmussen, maybe he gets into the light. Maybe Zadina takes that spot, and then you knock Vanek. Zadina, if he makes it, probably goes on the second line left wing. So that would knock Abdelkader to the fourth line. Yeah, over $5 million a year for a fourth liner. And then Vanek down to the third line. If Zadina doesn't make it in Detroit, then I guess Rasmussen's in the lineup. And then Glendening is your fourth-line center. He's not a bad fourth-line center, but again, fourth-line centers aren't going to be game changers on a team like this. And then Tyler Bertuzzi on the right side. I just don't know how this team has... they were in the playoffs for a quarter century. 25 straight years, and then so you knew that you're getting late round draft picks, you're not getting the best young players. It was going to fall off at some point. Datsuk retired, now Henrik Zetterberg's all done. Their defense, they have not been able to at all to rebuild their defense, but they've been so mismanaged over the last couple of years, giving big contracts to older veteran players for no reason when they should have been focused on getting younger, and they just haven't done that. And now you're starting to see them get a little bit better up front, but their defense is still an absolute disaster, and it's going to be a little while before they can get any NHL-ready young defensemen in there. They have some solid younger pieces up front. Mantha, Larkin, Svechnikov, Rasmussen, Bertuzzi, Athanasiou still pretty young. They have some good pieces up front. What do they have on the back end? Daley, old. Cronwall, old. Green, old. Ericsson, old. DeKeyser, okay. Jensen, borderline NHLer. That's your problem right there. They have not been able to rebuild this defense at all. And they're not going to be good until they fix that defense. It does not matter what they do up front. They can draft goal-scoring wingers with top 5 picks for the next 5 years. If they don't fix this defense, they are not going to be a winning team. I mean, the thing with Detroit is you look, they get a lot of heat for this. Is you look at the old veteran players who they paid too much money to, and really don't even belong in a lineup that should be featuring younger players trying to get NHL experience. Like Vanek, why? Abdelkader, wicked overpaid. Helm, how is he still on this team? Daly, why? Kronwall, he should have retired 2 years ago. Eriksson, he's garbage at this point. Green, why bring back Green at over $5 million a year? I mean, I guess they need someone to play defense, but it just doesn't make much sense to me how this team has been managed over the last couple of years and how they continue to sign these veteran players like they won't admit that they need a rebuild. You are a rebuilding team whether you like it or not. Signing Mike Green and Trevor Daly type players is not going to make you go from a below 500 team to a playoff team. It's not going to happen. So this team needs to accept the fact that they're rebuilding and then somehow keep rebuilding more than they already have. I mean, they have the good forward pieces. Zadina, I didn't even talk about him that much. They have the great forward pieces. They need to rebuild this defense, and they need a franchise goaltender because Jimmy Howard is not it. But anyway, that's what I've got on Detroit. If you're a Red Wings fan, it's probably going to be a rough year for you, but watch these younger players, see their development, and know that the future can be bright if managed correctly. And good news for you guys, Steve Yzerman is probably coming to save the day when Ken Holland gets fired at the end of this year. Yzerman will probably come in, be your GM, and fix this team the way he did the Tampa Bay Lightning. So you do have a bright future in Detroit, but it's going to take a lot of work, and you are not going to reap the rewards of it this season. This is going to be a very long year for the Red Wings. So that's what I got on Detroit. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. Check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and talk to you guys soon.